everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Left Through Music video and podcast series. And today I am with the world-renowned conductor, Mr. Alan Mautner. He is the conductor of the Loxa Symphony Orchestra as well as the La Mirada Symphony Orchestra. And today we're going to be discussing a little bit about his journey through conducting and why do conductors exist. That's always been a big question about that. So, Mr. Mautner, would you like to start us off?
Well, thank you, Nicole. Thank you for having me on today. So people ask, what does a conductor do? Why do orchestras need a conductor? Why does an ensemble need somebody up there waving their hands and making motions that maybe for the average listener don't understand what those motions mean? So a conductor is actually a relatively new part of the orchestra comparatively. Conductors, as we know them today, really didn't come into existence until the later part of the 19th century as classical music and orchestral music was starting to grow and get larger, and romantic ideas such as slowing down and speeding up and vast contrasts of dynamics. It actually required somebody to be at the front of this large ensemble to show how these things worked. Prior to that, a conductor could be the composer, or it could be the first violinist, just leading the ensemble. But now we have these what we call superstar conductors that have gained notoriety and almost showman star status. And so you have great conductors like Gustavo Dudamel today, or Michael Tilson Thomas, who go up there and not only interpret, but they do a really good show for the audience. So the conductor is helping the ensemble with interpretation, timing, everything from dynamics, helping sections or individuals to come in when they're supposed to enter. They play actually a very vital part, primarily because the conductor is the primary interpreter of the music. So when you go up in front of an orchestra and you're meeting your musicians for the first time, it's you that gives the direction on how a Beethoven symphony will be performed, how a Brahms symphony will be performed, or how a Strauss tone poem might be performed, because there's going to be differences from conductor to conductor.
Exactly. So I know you mentioned a bunch of different conductors that have made a name for themselves in the industry. And I kind of want to ask, I realize that between different conductors, they each have their own different interpretations. So personally for you, what type of work do you do before, let's say you go into a first rehearsal? Like if you just get a score, what do you do with that?
Very good question. If it's a piece of music that I am completely unfamiliar with, I will spend a good deal of time studying it, seeing where important parts like tempo changes, time signature changes. I'll go through to see how the orchestration lays. Is it a thick orchestration where everybody's playing all the time? Is it relatively thin where I might need to do a little bit more cueing to certain instruments? If it's a piece that I've played or conducted before, such as a Beethoven symphony or a Dvorak symphony, which I've played a number of times and conducted a number of times, then I already have an interpretive idea of how that should go. Although I'll tell you, each time I conduct a piece, it's going to be a little bit different. The tempo might be a little bit different. The nuances, I might have heard a recording where, I like that. I really like what that conductor did. So I might, put that into my interpretation. But with a new piece, I will try to see if there's a active recording of it so I can get a good idea of where the key components are going to be. And I think coming into that first rehearsal as prepared as possible is showing respect to not only the music, but to the musicians.
So at this time, we're actually going to listen to a recording of the Loxa Symphony Orchestra performing a piece. So here we go. That was absolutely wonderful, and clearly I can see the wonderful work that Mr. Bonner you have done with your orchestra, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And I want to conclude this interview with just one last question. What advice would you give to conductors or student conductors that are studying in high school, studying in college? Is there any advice that you would like to give them?
I think the most general thing is listen. Listen to different types of music, immerse yourself in score study, and in this time scores are so readily available online. It's so easy to go to a website and find a Mozart symphony and sit there and listen to it and study it and really immerse yourself in what symphonic music has to offer. I always recommend starting with Mozart and Haydn because they are considered the cornerstones of symphonic music. You could also listen to a lot of Bach and Handel and their instrumental settings, but then start to proceed on and listen to the great romanticists, Mendelssohn, another great orchestrator, composer, Dvorak, Brahms, and then once you feel that much certain of yourself, then start to tackle Gustav Mahler and Richard Strauss, and then getting into the 20th century with Igor Stravinsky, Ravel, and the great 20th century. There's just so much to offer, and don't be afraid to just kind of immerse yourself in that music. And then once you have that understanding and you think, hey, I wouldn't mind conducting, a great way to begin is get some musician friends together, get a string quartet together, and give them a Mozart string quartet and conduct them. And that's really the best way to start. You start with a small little group and then you expand. And because it's hard to find musicians to just conduct. Unless you have a symphony orchestra in your closet ready to go, you're going to have some experience working with musicians before that big step of actually putting yourself in front of a large symphony. So those are all some things you could begin to do and build your interest in conducting.
I love it. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing more of your performances once we go back in person next year. And I'm sure you're going to be the one in the future who's going to invent the musicians in a closet concept. So everybody can practice conducting.
I'm working on it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Left Through Music video and podcast series. And we hope to see you next time. Bye.